fucking disgusting.
Well, hello there. Welcome back to the Well Below Average podcast. I'm Adam Ish. We have Roy White
I'm
on
gonna
to
go
my
for
left
this one.
still.
Ooh, that's no. I don't like that. I take it back.
Take it back. Take it back.
I take
We
that.
got Roy White with us. As always, we're back. I should probably mute this. So, I'm not alone in this, right? You watch every year before the Royal Rumble. You watch the Royal Rumble from 24 years before, right? To prepare.
Yeah, exactly 24 years though.
Yeah.
Not one before, not one after. Every time around. Now, was that a result of you buying into the Peacock craze, and now you're trying to figure out what your value of Peacock is going to be going forward?
I mean, I've had Peacock for years, but no, I do. That is an interesting topic, but no, I've had Peacock for a while. As we call around here, because I'm a 13-year-old boy, we call it Tiny Wiener. Do you
Nice.
get it? Peacock. Tiny.
No, I don't. Explain it to me, please.
Okay, so like a pea is tiny, and a cock is another name for a penis.
We're gonna get to a place where you won't then go on to explain that to me. We're not there yet, but we're gonna get there.
We're gonna get there, right? But yeah, so I've had it for a while. I'm watching the 2000 Royal Rumble. I'm watching the Mankind Triple H street fight for the World Heavyweight Championship. So if I'm distracted, it's because I'm watching something that's over 2 decades old that I've probably seen a dozen times.
Yeah, I thought Mankind was gonna pull that one out.
Oh, this is not the one he wins. He wins one. I know he wins.
I think he just got away from it. You said Mankind and The Rock?
No, Mankind and Triple H.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Forgive me. Yeah.
I know they have a little bit of a thing, a rivalry, and Triple H drops the belt to him at one point. I don't know if it's this match or not exactly, but
well, hopefully, if you stayed with us through the live stream, you're not sticking around for a recap of that.
Oh, I thought we were gonna do a complete I was gonna give you play-by-play. This is the one where he drops it because okay, never mind. Yeah, we won't get into it. Triple H has a bunch of blood coming out of his boot, and I remember he got a splinter from when they were doing bumps on pallets. He has like a 3-inch wood splinter that went down into his boot, like down into his calf, and he wrestled like the whole match with this thing in his.
You're still going on it. I thought I hit the eject button on that, but here we are.
Sorry. I'll pause it so I'm not distracted.
That's a good idea.
There we go.
But for everybody's
sake. I saw. Okay. All right.
Okay.
I'll show some restraint when I'm talking about a topic here. You don't worry about it. You just, spend 45 minutes on a topic. What?
I like that. See, now this is good. What we're doing here is good. This is the undressings of the onion to where we're not just being, casually, informally, polite with one another. And we need to break that point. We need to break that ice. So maybe this is the show. I'm being told that I'm too long-winded.
And I'm being told to stop talking about wrestling matches that are.
Hey, I think we're making progress.
Hey, we're getting there. All right. So today's show, obviously, if you saw the title, we have a eulogy and other fun things. The eulogy is for the Dallas Cowboys. The other
Gone too soon.
It's a moment of
Adam, what do
silence.
you say, dude? Like, how were you how do you
I When it got to 21-0, I turned it off. Honestly, I don't think I made it to that far into the second quarter.
ooh, no hope at that point. Like hope gone at 21 nothing.
They can't do. They can't. This team
Well, and
is.
I guess it was 20 to nothing, right? Because they
Yeah.
missed that extra point.
Well, yeah, yeah. That third score that Green Bay had, I was okay.
See, and that was the point where I was like, all right, now if I remember a long time ago, Dak Prescott was once down 21-3 to a Green Bay team, and he brought them all the way back in the playoffs, no less, as a rookie. And so I threw that out on Twitter. Hey guys, guess what? This could be. And then pick six to the house. That was probably the moment for most people. I don't know if they jettisoned it as quickly as you did. That moment, the pick six, was probably enough. Not just to put a nail in the coffin for the 2023 season. I mean, how many eras could potentially end in the next week?
Oh yeah.
Dan Quinn era, certainly gone.
Who?
Dan Quinn is done.
Yeah, I
And
think so.
it'll be really interesting the way that he's remembered around here. He's certainly gone. He's got like 5 different Zoom interviews this week, not even including Seattle. His era is over. Is the Mike McCarthy era potentially on the chopping block?
Mm, I yeah. I think I th- yeah, Quinn gone, I think. But yeah, I feel like everything that had to happen for McCarthy to be shown the door happened yesterday.
It
Uh,
was like a 1 in 8 different types of outcomes game that could have taken place to have me considering that the Cowboys might move on from Mike McCarthy after multiple 12-win seasons in a row. And yet, getting thrashed early on, allowing a touchdown drive on the very first drive, over 75 yards. They went through the Cowboys defense like a knife through butter. Then on offense, when your game plan, your script, Mike McCarthy, is in play here. First 15 plays, they've thought about these all week long. What does he do? Run, run, third and long. Hopefully, Dak makes something happen. And he did the first time around. They get a first down on Dak's legs. I think all of us were surprised that took place, given the fact that it was like 3rd and 8. But he scrambled and found a way. Then they run back to back on 1st and 2nd down again. Once again, 3rd and long, and Dak can't pull it out. They punt it away, and then they're down, right? And then it's done. And we'll get to the Dak Prescott part of this conversation because that needs to be in play as well. But I'm literally at a loss for where you go with Mike McCarthy from here. I don't know how his messaging could ring true to anybody in that locker room next season. What more can he say to change the tone and to change the mentality that surrounds this football team?
well, it's the idea that Moore was the problem with the offense in the playoffs. It took a while to get going. They got going real well on offense. It seemed towards the end of the year that the league had figured out McCarthy's offense, whatever he was doing that was working for those 6 weeks, 7 weeks in the middle of the season after the San Francisco game.
See, I'm not sure about that because, and granted, it was truly garbage time. Green Bay had nothing to play for, late in the game. And so the Cowboys were able to finish with some pretty gaudy offensive numbers. Dak Prescott ended up with more than 400 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. It looked like they could have done something had they implemented that game plan early on, which was throwing on early downs, not running the ball into like a wall, but really playing the type of football they played successfully since that loss against San Francisco. It felt like they went away from that, in my opinion. And for that reason, if they do go away from Mike McCarthy, I'll have zero issues with it.
I wouldn't either. But I like what you said about like the locker room, the voice, like, and that's what I was getting. Like he ran off Moore, saying basically he's the one that's going to be able to fix the issues, and the issues still, a lot of the same issues were still there, if not different ones, because Moore, like you said, never ran into a brick wall over and over again, hoping for a different result. Heck, he never ran the ball really at all. So, yeah, I think what had to happen for McCarthy to leave or to be shown the door is what happened, right? Like you said, there's all kinds of scenarios that could have happened, but this is really the one that couldn't have. Obviously, the 2 pick sixes really you can't really put on the defense, but I mean the defense didn't look great.
Well,
Parsons
there
got a
wasn't
few
two,
holding
like
calls.
one pick six, and then like a pick that put him in bad position. And I think that pick was on Brandon Cooks personally, but I pick is a pick. Like could have thrown it elsewhere and decided to throw it into that spot. I get that criticism of Dak, but the defense could have stood tall in that moment, and instead they allowed touchdowns on 6 of the Packers' 7 first drives. Okay. Not even talking about the Dak Prescott interception that they scored a touchdown on that was like for 19 yards of a drive. They had 4 of the first 5 touchdown drives they gave up outside of that one were for 75 plus yards. The defense was atrocious. I took pictures during the game of like the point of a catch for the Packers. And in several instances, like here's Romeo Doubs catching a ball without a defender in the screen. Here's the tight end, Luke Musgrove, like streaking down the sidelines, being able to turn around, wait for a football, catch it, still no one in the screenshot, and then turn back around and run for a score. Like Mike McCarthy and the coaching staff, they can all go. So that's 2 eras gone. Dan Quinn, Mike McCarthy. In my mind, like I think Mike McCarthy will be gone. It will surprise me now if Mike McCarthy stays. The last part of that puzzle, the biggest part of that puzzle. I mean, where do you go from here with Dak Prescott? I've been a Dak defender. Like I've been by Dak's side in terms of from a fan base standpoint. I've supported him and have always believed that he's capable of winning a Super Bowl, of taking a team, of elevating a team even to a Super Bowl, not just being a bus driver in that respect. But even I can't look at that performance. And granted, it was a team effort in terms of the loss. I can't look at that performance and say, sign me up for another 4 years of that.
Yeah. And I think and I've been a big Dak apologist. I've come to realize what Dak is, I think. And that is he's a good NFL quarterback. He's not the best. He had a great year, but he seems to in the playoffs have his worst moments seem to really show up in the playoffs. Not all the time. I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, you look at the Tampa Bay game last year, was one of his best games of his career. He goes to San Francisco. Man, is that just a matchup issue? Green Bay yesterday, Green Bay, was that a matchup issue? Is that just
Shouldn't have been. That was one of the worst defenses in the league coming into that game.
And
shouldn't have been.
It shouldn't have been. Sometimes those things happen, and you look at earlier, in the year, Arizona, Dak didn't play well.
Yeah, but sometimes those things happen is a
Right.
fine thing to say in the regular season. When it keeps happening in the playoffs, time and time again, when they're put in positions where they're expected to win a game or favored to win a game, they were the biggest favorites of wild card weekend.
Yeah. Now
No one
tell me
else was
this.
favored by more than a score, and they got blasted, disintegrated, exposed,
So
completely manhandled.
so you're in favor of a complete rebuild
I
because
mean,
if you get rid of the whole
look,
coaching staff and your quarterback, I don't know of any other way to describe it besides a complete rebuild.
they're not going to do it. I don't think the numbers allow them to move on from Dak Prescott
Mhm.
here in 2024. He's a $60 million cap hit. You try to trade him, another team's going to make you eat a huge portion of that salary, and they're probably going to give you very little in return because if they want him long term, they're going to have to sign him to a long term deal.
Yeah.
They're not going to give you a first round draft pick for him. I don't believe. Certainly not one in the top 10 where you feel like you could reload at that position immediately. Do you re-sign him to an extension? This is the most likely of scenarios, simply because it kicks the can down the road, and the Jones boys can say, "Okay, we can figure out the cap at some point."
Mhm.
There's always the chance that when you sign a quarterback like this to a long-term deal and you kick the can down the road, that he gets hurt, that the team struggles and performs horribly, and you do wind up with a top 10 pick, that then you can make a decision on the quarterback, right? That's to me the most likely of scenarios. And I'm not saying they're sitting there hoping Dak Prescott gets hurt. I'm just saying that can sometimes be a beneficial byproduct of your quarterback going down, unfortunately, early on in the season. Uh, the third option, I guess people say it. I don't think it's a realistic option, is to cut him. And you can't cut him. That'll never happen. A guy making $60 million for the next season in terms of your cap will never get cut outright in the NFL. I don't care who he is or what he's done or what he hasn't done.
So
There's
Russ is
just
gonna
no
get
way that
cut
the
though for a
say
lot of money.
what?
You don't think Russ is gonna get cut for about that same amount of money?
No, I don't. He's not that cap hit. I don't think he's not a $60 million cap hit. Like, I think Russ might be like 40. They say that, but also I don't know the circumstances of like the guarantees on that or whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, I suppose it could happen with Russ, but it ain't happening with Dak. It's not happening. So, look, if I could make a case to like completely rebuild it, tear it down, yeah, I guess it would be appealing. Like if you're going to go with a new coach, you would have to go that route. If you're going to go new coach, new quarterback. What I think the way that it's going to play out is they'll go new coach and they'll give Dak a chance to run it back on an extension. That extension will be heavily front loaded to where it's like paid out big, maybe the next 2 years. And, the earliest they'll be able to make a decision on him is, I think, 2025.
Right. I was looking up Russ's cap number. Uh
What'd you find?
he'd be 40 a year the next 2 years. Dead cap space.
40 a year for the next 2 years.
I
See,
think
that's why
that
I don't think
and
they'll cut him in the end. I
yeah. Now
I
and
bet they
that's
won't.
dead. Yeah, that's dead cap. I think they owe him 3,900 of guarantee 39 million, sorry, 100. 39 million of guaranteed. That they'd have to give him out the door cash. So, yeah.
Hmm.
I don't think Dak is going anywhere because like what you're talking about, if we're gonna get rid of the Joneses, forget about the money, just the consistency in the program. Like Jerry's not gonna want to rebuild now. I just can't imagine he wants to rebuild. Um, and I think he's like, what do you do? You cut Dak or get rid of Dak in any way, like you're honestly gonna have to see what Lance can do, right? That's really your only shot.
I guess this is a lot of people's hope, but if Lance could do anything at all, he would have been named a backup quarterback one time this season. They certainly would have named him the backup quarterback in the final game of the year when they were certainly going to be in a position of playing their backups. Like, Jerry did that for Jerry, and that didn't do anything for the football team, and it won't. So anybody thinking Trey Lance is going to come save this thing?
Yeah.
Reality check.
Well, I think not Mike, Kyle Shanahan is considered one of the better personnel guys in the league, and he was willing to let him go for probably more than he should have been let go for. But yeah, but I'm just saying, yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be impossible to get rid of everybody. I wonder if it's does Quinn stay as head coach if they get rid of McCarthy, or do you think
No,
Quinn is just out?
no, he's gone. The Quinn era is done. The
Yeah.
Quinn era is done. The
Okay.
McCarthy era is probably, in my opinion, like 80 to 85% done, likely to be done. And the Dak era is like 15% likely to be done. It's not very likely at all that the Dak era is done.
Well, let's put an end to it there. We talked about 20 minutes or so of this season. That's the eulogy. Always next year we'll buy into it again then. And
no, I won't. I'm going to make I'm making a claim now.
Mm-hmm.
I will not buy into it. I won't. No matter what they do, I'm gonna like. And unfortunately, when you become that, you almost have to Stephen A. Smith it because he's the only one that like never buys in, right? And
Yeah,
yet,
I guess.
damn it,
Mm.
damn it. Sorry,
Well,
sorry to your son there. I told him I wasn't gonna swear anymore on the podcast. So
I think he's watching right now, but yeah. Yeah, well, let's move on from there. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of football and Cowboys talk. Just because it's over, it doesn't mean it's over. It never is. So another thing, I mean, just to wrap up sports, we're like wrapping up this wild card weekend. It's kind of the climax. We got Eagles playing right now, right? Against the what you call them?
yeah, I guess the Bucks. I'm not watch. I mean, I guess I'll check it out later on, see what's going on. But
Bucks are up
Eagles are getting
10-0.
blasted. 10. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Just like we thought it would go. Done.
And Buffalo blows out Pittsburgh. No shock there. Detroit wins a close win. I think everybody thought LA was going to give them a tough time, and they did. And yeah, what's the other? Browns lose to Houston. Kansas City. I know everybody's kicking them while they're down, but man, that's a experienced playoff team. Would not want to face them at all.
Yeah, but it was a guy that had no playoff experience that made the difference for him. Rashee Rice was a rookie from SMU, and he was the complete like it wasn't Kelsey. It was, I mean, their defense was okay, but Rashee Rice was like the MVP of that football game, and he made a statement. That was kind of cool to see a local product. But yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are what the Chiefs are. Like, I just, if I'm the Chiefs, I'm still looking at Buffalo going, okay, I wish I didn't have to, but I think they're on a collision course. In fact, won't they play each other here in the next round? It'll be the Texans of the 4 seeds, so the Texans against Lamar. And I told you last week, Texans, sneaky AFC representative. Like CJ Stroud, everybody's going to jump on that bandwagon and put the Joe Burrow treatment to him where it's like, oh, the next year he's going to be in it, right? So it'll flip. But for now, you probably can't be too effusive with your praise of CJ Stroud. I used to get told, like, don't use big words on the radio because people don't know what they mean.
I didn't know what that means, but I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say anyway.
I like it.
Yeah. I've liked CJ Stroud all year. I thought, yeah. I feel like Stroud is what happens when an organization takes a young QB, surrounds them with weapons, good offensive mind, good coaches, and accentuates what they do well while they're learning versus I sports hate Matt Eberflus for what they've done to Field. Yeah. I think Fields is one of the most mismanaged talents ever. Like, just no line. I mean, and I'm not gonna lie, they got him some weapons this year finally, but he's starting to look better, right? He's come along in the offense. I don't want to turn it to that discussion, but
Well,
uh,
I'll be fascinated to see what someone trades for him to get him. Because if it looks like the Bears may be looking at quarterback themselves with the number one overall pick, if they are, then Justin Fields is definitely my hope for his sake, as a fan of his too, because I do like his game. My hope is that he gets to play in a warm climate because his skill set will be a lot more dangerous in like getting to play in a dome every week or getting to play in a nice weather situation every week as opposed to what Chicago becomes like right around October, which is a hellscape.
yeah, yeah, I've been a big Fields fan, and I just feel like they've really messed. I hope he gets a good opportunity moving forward. Yeah, I'm trying to think where he could go.
I mean, look, there's a lot of teams that might consider him worth a first round draft pick in this year's draft, especially if you're like in the middle of the first and you're not going to get one of the big name quarterbacks, the Drake Mays, the Caleb Williamses. Maybe you're not thrilled about Michael Penix. Maybe you don't necessarily 100% buy in his skill set, or like maybe you have the 18th pick and you just can't get a top quarterback, but the Bears will take that for a guy like who is also going to get paid by the next team that deals for him. So, I mean, there's, oh my God. And they have 2 top 5 picks, the Bears do, along with a quarterback that's a absolute viable trade component. They could definitely go into this draft with maybe 4 first round picks. Like, I don't necessarily know how they get the 4th one, but like a team could absolutely say, okay, we'll give you this year's first and next year's first for Justin Fields. And so they have 3 firsts in 2024, 2 firsts going into next year. Whew. I mean, the Bears could be really something crazy, but for Fields' sake, he at least hopefully gets to go to a team that gives a hoot about his skill set.
Yeah, it's all about coaching. Gets into the right place.
Oh
Chicago Fields.
no, sorry, your like microphone did a weird thing there. I didn't.
Oh,
I guess you
yeah.
didn't hear it.
It's all
Right
about
now.
yeah. It's all about the I didn't hear any, but yeah. Um, Chicago hires an offensive staff that's never called. The offensive coordinator had never called plays and never. I think it's you get him with the right people. But we'll put a pin in that. I'm sure there'll be plenty of time to talk Justin Fields. Let's get into something a little different we didn't do last week. I watched a new TV show. Have you watched a new TV show? Have you done anything with your life in the last week?
Have I done anything with my life? I
Yeah.
watched a new TV show. No, I've just been watching reruns of Seinfeld. Believe it or not,
I do that. That's
I
what's on.
watched
Like
it.
if I'm at the house, Seinfeld's on all the time.
Yeah, I am on to, but I watch them sequentially, right? Like, I'm interested in going back and seeing these old comedies because I didn't realize that it had so many kind of running gags and side bits and kind of references to past episodes that when you do watch them back to back to back to back to back, you catch all those little funny jokes and instances. But now I'm to the finale. So I've got no more show to go.
Well,
I've
on the
lost.
Seinfeld, I do have some Seinfeld news. Have you? He was doing some special November. He's doing like a stand-up special. No, it wasn't televised, but someone was recording, and he said on there that him and Larry David have already started working on a new Seinfeld project.
Wow. Man, it's amazing how stuff can just get rerun like 20 years later and we go, it'll be great. It'll be great.
Frasier, man, I've watched the new Frasier. I like it.
That was literally what I was thinking. Like, I didn't say it, but that was 100% what I was thinking of.
Really?
To say, like, they just threw it back in our face. I hear it's not bad, but
No,
I haven't checked it out yet. So, you're the big TV guy. You're the big movie guy. Like, in general, I turn to you for expertise on what is interesting coming out. So tell me, like, what have you been watching? What's new, and what do you want to lay on me?
So NBC did get me, not with a subscription, but with a new show that they were promoting the hell out of yesterday. Ted, the
Ted,
series. Yes. Are you fan of the movies, Ted?
huge. I mean, it's a Seth MacFarlane thing. It's like, you know, Ted, the scripts were funny enough. Like, it's just a Seth MacFarlane style of comedy that I'm into. I've always loved Family Guy. I've always loved the Cleveland show that he did, and American Dad, like all the stuff that he is involved in. Big fan. So, um, yeah, Ted's easy to like.
Yeah, I so I didn't have a lot of high hopes for the show because it's only like 6 episodes, which is a weird kind of number to cut, and then they released everything all at once. Um, which not that I know anything, but I've read that when a network or like a streaming service drops everything at once, it typically means they don't have a lot of confidence in that show, with the exclusion of Netflix, which is just kind of their model. Um, but so I had some like, oh man, I didn't think it was going to be that great. Checked it out. Uh, it's an easy watch, like you said. They're inconsistent times. Some are like 30 minutes, some are like almost an hour, some of the episodes. Um, so they're not like uniform, but they're hilarious. They are Ted, the funnier than the second movie, almost where the first movie is at with the comedy.
Mm,
So it centers around a 16-year-old version of what's his name? Uh John, yeah.
mhm.
His friend, and it just in their family. It's him as a 16-year-old with a foul-mouthed teddy bear. So it's after Ted had become famous. Remember the movie, he becomes famous. So
Yep.
he'd already become famous and moved back in with John and his family. So yeah, they have it it reminds me of the 90s show, and they probably did it because it takes place in the 90s, and they probably did this as an homage to the 90s show. They got the kind of free spirit niece that moved in with them. Uh, Remember that from the shows in the 90s? There'd always be some like nephew or niece or
Now there
cousin
is
that
an
moved
actual.
in.
You're saying the '90s show was like that '70s show. There was that
Just
'90s show for a small period.
Well, I'm talking about just shows that were made in the 90s. That was a big trope. Oh, you froze. Did we all freeze, or is it just you frozen?
Yes, 100%.
All right, you're back. Um,
Oh, now you're back to me. See, we were both at like different cross places there. Yes, you were talking about '90s shows and that
yeah,
specific show that was that '90s show, but also '90s. Okay, no,
yeah,
you're talking about just generally '90s shows that had
yeah,
that like free spirited girl. 100%. Right?
yeah. Like
These
like
were the
Full House
brilliant
had
colleges.
the cousin that came in that knew taekwondo. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Nice.
so there's that trope there, which I imagine being a Seth MacFarlane thing, he probably did on purpose, because he could have added a sister or whatever. But um, it's it's interesting. It's funny. It's irreverent. It's definitely Seth MacFarlane. Um, Lots of cussing. So if you're a fan of the cussing,
You
you'll
know I
like
like
that.
the cussing, dude.
You
You
like the
know I'm a
cussing.
cuss a minute type of guy.
Yeah, I think I watched it all yesterday.
One of these days you're gonna have to figure out as you're working through your skill set because I'm very impressed at the way you run this stream thing, this StreamYard stuff. I should be the technical one given that I was like in the business, but
It's just
I defer to you on that front. We're gonna have to figure out how to like play audio clips as well because I'd love to hear a sampling of something you thought was funny from the show of Ted, and maybe
that
that's something we can work on as we continue to move forward. I figured out the lighting today. The
nice.
lighting's a little bit better. Got that working. So we're going to continue making this thing as great as it can possibly be. But yeah,
Um,
Ted sounds really funny. I'm mad into Seth MacFarlane comedy.
it is good. It's up there with what all he does. It's a short-lived show, a short run, like 6 episodes. So I'm kind of jonesing for more, and it really didn't have like an arc. You think like, oh, a cliffhanger. It just kind of ended. So maybe they got some more coming. I'm gonna cut this short a little bit. I know we wanted to talk a little bit about one more thing. We're kind of running up 35 minutes here.
My
We're
fault
talking.
again. You can say it, dude. I'm too long-winded on the sports.
No, it's
My
fine.
bad. My
Yeah,
bad.
I don't have to
Football's
say
over,
it
so we're
because
not
you
gonna do
said
this
it.
as much anymore with the sports.
It's fine. We talk sports. We like sports. But one thing, we were talking about this before we started broadcasting or podcasting or whatever you want to call it. So it's older news, and it's not really that important. So we don't have to get, or not important because it's important, but nothing new broke. But the Epstein list, and I know you're a big fan
Important
of
in Aaron
Epstein and
Rodgers'
his work.
world.
I mean, sorry, what?
I said it's important in Aaron Rodgers' world. The
It
Epstein
is. It
list.
is. It is. Do you miss my clip about you being a fan of Epstein's work?
You know I am. I mean, like all the hits. What did he do again?
Uh, he made rich people rich and got them, underage girls.
Oh man, because the first part sounded kind of cool, but that second part, hmm,
Well, I don't
that
think rich people making rich people rich. It sound like a nice, But the names, we were promised all through Christmas. Rogers, all these names, Aaron Rodgers, all these. It was excited about all these names came out. Essentially, a court document got unlocked or released from a deposition of somebody who named some people who were on a flight list of Epstein. Not a single new name that we haven't already been hearing about, but
that he hasn't already been pictured with Jeffrey Epstein,
basically,
basically, like
yes.
seen at a party with, and also with
As well.
multiple girls, maybe having a chat with said individual about said girls in that same video shot. Yeah,
Maybe,
like it's all the
yeah.
same names.
All this,
I guess my thing with that, what I've heard of that news story, it sounds like all the names are just coming from a guy's flight log, like a pilot that just kept scrupulous notes regarding his flight times and flight logs, and that's where he got the names. I guess where the corroboration comes from, right, is whether the victim of Jeffrey Epstein and by extension his associate Ghislaine Maxwell, whether those victims can also verify having seen the individuals on these flight logs, right?
right?
Like that's where the intersection to me seems to be where there's something nefarious there. Just being on a flight log with Jeffrey Epstein, in my mind, doesn't classify you necessarily as someone who is engaged in the types of things he's engaged in.
Right.
But if you're on that flight log and a photo of you can be shown to a victim of Jeffrey Epstein, and that victim can identify you, that's kind of serious biz, right?
Yeah.
That seems pretty. I mean, generally, I'm one to like instinctually take a victim at their word, and I understand that there are victims who claim to be victims and who are not. It does happen. I'm not dismissing that fact. But in general, I think there's a lot of risk to be taken by claiming someone did something to you. There's a lot of danger in that and exposure in that for females or males or whomever the victim might be. And so I think in general, if you're willing to take that risk, I'm willing to say, like, all right, tell me what you've got.
Yeah. Um, I agree with you. I mean, yeah. You have to have a little more than the names, and I get that, and I get what he did professionally outside of, the island. put him around a lot of powerful people, but I doesn't necessarily, and that, yeah, he probably was a sleazeball all the way through, but you know what? A
Well, I'm sure
sleaze
he used it as a blackmailing tactic. He would get in with whoever he could. He would casually, like, I'm just guessing this is how it would play out, but he would probably casually mention something to the effect of like, "Oh, hey, like I could get you a girl or get you this or whatever if ever you wanted to." Ha ha ha, brush it off. And if that person was truly interested in what he's got to offer, if they didn't know who he was, they might just come back and say flippantly, casually, "Hey, like you mentioned that one time, what does that entail?" And now, in this narcissist, criminalistic mind, like not only was he figuring out how he was going to make this happen for said individual, but he was also figuring out how he was going to use what he was going to make happen for said individual against said individual for his own gain. And I suppose that's the part that continues to evade folks and our understanding is that surely this guy had a lot of videotapes out there.
You think he could
He's said
afford
to have
one?
videotaped nearly everything.
I mean, back in those days, videotape recorders were expensive. He might not have the money for that.
Yeah. 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 No, only that like every tree on his island apparently had like a camera in it or something like that. So to that degree, I don't know. There's still a lot on the Epstein stuff that doesn't make sense to me. But I also, there's not been enough to come out on it to make any definitive conclusions about what did or didn't take place with individuals. Maybe a handful of individuals, perhaps you could make some conclusions about, but nothing more beyond what we've already acknowledged and kind of seen.
Yeah, and that was the kind
And
of the
nothing, and no one that
disappointment.
would surprise you either. Like no name that would surprise you at this point, in
Yeah,
my mind.
and that was what I guess we were expecting a bombshell and nothing happened. Um, but it's just kind of crazy to me. I'm thinking, if there's some kind of list, names identified, irrefutable evidence, lock them up. I don't care if it's Clintons. I don't know the Clinton. I don't know Bill Clinton. I don't owe him
Oh, there's
anything.
no doubt about that. Like,
Obama,
that, yeah,
Biden's.
that
I
is
don't
one
care.
part that is really frustrating. Is like for anybody on a political side, either way, to to try to pretend that one side of a political party is only the ones doing it, but the guy on our side that is also being accused of it, because both sides have at least one. The guy
Yeah.
on our side is totally innocent and can't possibly have done what's claimed. Absolutely not. Like, yeah, if the Clintons are involved, the Clinton is involved. I really doubt Hillary was involved there, but if Bill Clinton is involved at all, take him, put him, put him in chains.
Yeah.
Same thing with anybody on the right, including like the current presidential candidate, the one who's got like 94 indictments against him currently, and the one who is also steamrolling his way towards another GOP nomination in 2024.
Oh, let's not dig too far into that. We're about to hit the 45-minute mark.
And we're doing so
Um,
good. My fault.
no, you're fine. You're fine. Any last thoughts? I'm gonna cut you off. I'm gonna give you like 30 seconds. Go.
What do you think I can possibly say in just 30 seconds? No, I mean, cool Snowmageddon. Snowmageddon 2024 today. Roads kind of shut down, got a little bit of snow. My kids got to enjoy some of that. I hope if you got kids or loved ones out there, you did too. I didn't quite have the like clothes to stand up to what was going on out here. So I pretty much kept it indoors trying to fix my heater. And we did wind up getting that taken care of, thank God. But in the meantime, fun little fun little day off, even though I didn't get the day off. I was working today, but fun little day off for the kids and the fam. And my wife gets to be off again tomorrow because the school system shut down. I'm like, did they look at the roads?
It's just
In
too
my
cold.
day, in my day, okay, Adam, they'd have never let us skip a day. Like, no, actually, they probably would have. I mean, it's Texas, like tiny little speck of snow on the ground. They're gonna probably shut it down, and I'm okay with it. I just wish I was a kid that got to take advantage of it. I asked my boss, and he said, Are you kidding? Of course you're working tomorrow.
Well, there's where I cut you off. You had your 30 seconds. You had like 95 seconds. Anyway.
That's what I said. Like, I do
Well,
it.
that's what I'm here for.
Do me a
Anyway.
favor. Next time I do it, like put a timer on the screen, and when it's done, cut me off. Start interrupting me. Don't
I'm
be
gonna
so
do
polite.
like we used to do in college. Do you have a college speech class where someone would be a timekeeper and hold up like 1 minute and then the stop? Yeah.
I mean, let's get some props up in here.
We'll work on some things, but
You need to get a little sign, stop and go.
there you
Green
go.
green and red.
Well, I appreciate you, Roy. Appreciate anybody who watched this. Stay warm out there if you're watching it, around the time of release. If you're in the Texas at all, stay warm. Appreciate you. We will see you later. Till then, stay above average.